found a bunch of letters when Grandpa died in the box of letters. Remember when we went through the house? And I think they were love letters from Naomi. Now, who were those letters about and from? Does anybody remember that?
Probably, yeah. I had to grab them to save them and get rid of them.
Where are they and who are they? Tell us about those.
Well, I think I burned them real quick. They were from
Jack
Utah.
From Japan. He was in Japan on his mission, I think.
They were in an old beer box, right?
They were in some box. I remember that. That was about the time that Aunt Brenda drank the spiked hot sauce.
The only time liquor has ever passed my lips.
Now, Fred Hoops is in my ward, and he said that Grandpa always made a special punch with salad dressing. What's in the salad dressing?
That's when he went on the hunt.
Well, we'd make up a big salad like we talked about with tomatoes and cucumbers and all that. We wanted something besides just meat and potatoes out hunting. And Dad said he'd make the salad dressing. Now, he used to do that, I guess, when he had a drugstore. So he'd mix up Miracle Whip or mayonnaise, a little vinegar, and a little salt and pepper.
There's a little bit of Jim Beam in there.
And he'd put a little bit of, not Jim Beam. The only thing that he felt was worth putting in there was Canadian Club.
Canadian Club.
And so he put a little Canadian Club and mixed it all up. Now,
Preservative.
Mom wanted us to, we had a party and she decided that the men ought to cook biscuits and they'd have some stuff on the deal, but they wanted Nat's salad dressing on their salad. And so the Relief Society got served his salad dressing. But he had to mix it in the private, so nobody knows what the special ingredient was. It was to the Relief Society.
And he made his biscuits with beer. and then they really puffed up. Boy, he had the best looking biscuits that you ever saw. Put that beer in them.
And I learned after being out watching them make beer biscuits that you could make just as good a biscuits with vanilla, A&W root beer vanilla pop in it.
It just doesn't sound the
same way, a little sweeter.
Oh, it all gets baked out in it.
Well, we used to have a ward reunion every year for the ward, and they always asked Grandpa to make the coleslaw and furnish the ice cream for ice cream cones. We'd have hamburgers and ice cream cones for the kids. And you know what? That sounds like a funny combination, but it was absolutely delicious. And he always made the coleslaw every year. The great big number 2 tubs.
What did he put in the coleslaw?
Huh? Wait, nobody ever knew. He did it in the ice room.
Oh, dear.
No telling.
Anything done in the ice room stayed in the ice room.
But every Monday night, Grandpa would make ice cream. Was it Monday night? Every Monday night, he'd make these great big tubs of ice cream. He had a big ice cream maker. And people from all over the valley would come to eat ice cream on Sunday. That's a Sunday drive. They'd come down there. Then they started closing the store on Sunday, but then they would come other days. But then he stopped making ice cream after that.
Well, I remember having ice cream on Sunday afternoon out in the corner of Grandpa's house.
Yeah, that's when we made it in our old freezers.
Yeah.
Our old crank. But Dad, before they had the ice cream makers, he had a giant one. It must have been, 10 or 12 gallon. They were this high, and he'd have to go chip the ice, make it, and he'd make vanilla and chocolate and strawberry, I think is what they'd make, and pack it, and that's what they would serve at the drugstore when he was an apprentice at the drugstore.
Well, sometimes he would make black walnut for Mom.
Because that was her favorite, right? Black walnut.
Black walnut. Yeah.
Okay, when did he decide to close his store on Sunday?
It wasn't until way after Uncle Glenn died, because I worked there on Sundays, and he would let me go to sacrament meeting and Sunday school. That's when Sunday school was in the morning, and I would go to those and come back and work. But after Uncle Glenn died, it got too much for him, so he closed on Sundays.
Priesthood attended.
But they were falling asleep probably. at priesthood.
Oh no, they'd go to priesthood and then all of them would hit the drugstore for their cups of coffee.
Well, this is back when the word of wisdom was just a suggestion, right?
We were kids. Not exactly.
No,
So it was a commandment.
I don't.
I was working there
I
when
don't
I just
remember
from
church.
milkshakes and things.
I don't remember church leaders coming to drink coffee.
No,
I remember church leaders coming to have a milkshake.
Yeah.
Or
Not
a
the
soda
church
pop
leaders,
on
but a lot
Sunday.
of them came from priesthood that were not.
Not the leaders, the congregation.
Some of the congregation don't.
That's all right. When Dad came to visit me when I was a bishop, my dad said, "Well, I was met with one of your members this morning." And I knew had gone out for a cup of coffee somewhere. And he'd gone down the street to, I don't know, a little coffee shop not very far away, like Dunkin' Donuts. And there was a brother from my ward with him. They were drinking coffee. He's an old fellow like Grandpa. And then they both appeared in the priesthood meeting together. But that's just how they saw things. That generation looked at it differently than us. But we look at it as a completely different way. And I asked them if they had read Brother Marky Peterson's book, because he had a pamphlet that we used in the mission field. And it was interesting to say, oh yeah, Brother Peterson. They kind of looked at him as overly, I guess, energetic toward that. But I know Uncle Grover felt that way, but it was our generation that was supposed to make it better, and that's where we are.
We gradually did.
I think even when we were younger, we did things on Sunday, right? Picnics.
We did, and then we stopped.
Go to the flower gardens.
Well, when Dad shut the drugstore on Sunday, then remember when we used to say, remember when we used to go on picnics, Dad and Mom? When we used to go on picnics on Sunday, and Dad would say, yeah, but that was before your mom joined the church.
I noted that it changed in my mind. It changed when I became a priesthood holder. As Uncle Glenn then and Dad made sure that they came to take me to priesthood meeting. And Uncle Glenn would come down and pick me up when Dad was working in the store. And I knew it was from that time on that they also looked at Uncle Glenn and asked him to teach a class in the priesthood. So they, that was a change in our lives. We didn't go on Sunday anymore to Viper Canyon or up to Wet Canyon or up to whatever. Mary Hilda. But then that's when we started our tradition on Saturday afternoon, which was far better actually.
Yeah, it was better.
There's something really unusual about Mary Hilda. Now, some of you may not be there, but it's at the base of the mountain, and there's a sign there, and I haven't been out there for years, but there's a certain tree you could lie under in the midday, and you could see a star in the sky. So we'd all lay out there every time just so we could see that star. Always there. I thought that was the most unusual thing to see a star in the middle of the day.
Where's Mary Hilda? How do you get there?
It's right on this end of the straightaway, going up the Mount Graham.
It's
And you
actually,
turn off.
Mary Hilda is the bottom of Wet Canyon.
Yeah.
The Wet Canyon runs out at the base of the mountain. There's a little hill we call Cyclone Hill. It's a little conical shaped hill right at the bottom. You drive around to the west of that about 1.5 miles and you come out into that canyon.
There's
And
little
during
pools
wet
of water.
years, the Wet Canyon would run out there where it was nice in the spring.
And it got to where the road was so bad because of floods that we didn't go there so
Yeah.
much anymore.
Yeah.
And there were little pools of water you could swim, and some of them were quite deep. But Jay usually was the only bravest one to go in because it was colder than heck in the middle of summer.
When Grandpa told us a story about the time he felt closest to the Spirit, about when his father passed away and he had to ride out. Tell us that story.
Well, but needed to find his brother.
He had to go find his brothers.
He told me that he had to ride because his brothers were all out hunting, deer hunting. And I tried to decide what time of year that was. It had to be the fall sometime. And they were up in the White Mountain area. So he had to drive north over the top of the Gila Range and out through another canyon, a couple of other canyons to get out there. And it's at least 25 to 40 miles.
This is all on horseback, right?
It was all horseback. And he got out there and it started to snow and it got dark and he hadn't come across where they were. And he said that he decided he better hold up, and he found a kind of a cave sort of a place where he could put his horse and tie his horse and himself be back in the cave. And he built, I think he said he built a little fire. And he must have been really worried because he said that was the time when he felt closest to his Heavenly Father. Because I expect he prayed about it and so forth. And you got to think about why he would have done that. We didn't see him that same way as we grew up. But his dad had been a member of the bishopric for 15 or lots of years. So they knew about the gospel, and his brother had been on a mission, Uncle Grover. So that's how he felt, and he said the next day he got up and rode on down the trail, and he picked up tracks in the snow, and he knew it was their group, and then he was able to follow them in and
He had
tell
no
them
clue
about
where
the
they were, did he?
Well, he knew about where they were. It's just a matter of what trail you followed to get there.
Yeah, but when it snows, it looks a lot different.
It's all different when it snows.
The rocks are.
Yeah, we know that because one year we were up deer hunting, and Grandpa, I always drove out from college to meet him out in Wilcox area, and we were hunting in this area called Rock Canyon, where Curtis and I, the last time we camped up there in that big old pond down in the deal was an old rock corral. But anyway, they got up one morning and it was foggy and it had snowed, and they were going to get out and get that deer as soon as that fog come up, because they knew they would see the deer because they would come out feeding. So he and his little friend, I don't know whether it was Grover or Ed, but anyway, there were two of them on horseback, and they rode around, and after a while they said, well, there's somebody in the front of us. They could see tracks. And so they rode on, and then they said, well, they've joined up with somebody else, and they could still see tracks. Pretty soon the fog lifts, and they look around and realize they'd been riding around and around our camp.
Same thing happened to us at Soldier Creek.
Yeah,
We were in the car, and the fog came in, and we were starting to get out of it because we need to get home. And we were just going in the circle like this
the turn.
until we finally figured out,
I
hey,
think we went around about 6 or 7 times before we realized we were in a circle.
Speaking of hunting stories,